It's not very often that a major B&M coaster is forgotten about. These are coasters that are $20+ million. Buying one means you're either rolling in the dough or you just robbed the bakery. Whenever B&M opens a coaster, you have enthusiasts from around the world flocking to it. It's always a quality ride, but a lot of the times, it's not much more than that. It's just good. However, there are some occasions where the stars align and B&M manages to pump out a masterpiece. This can happen with any one of their models. It happened with Fury for the Giga, Nemesis for the Invert, Thunderbird for the Wing, and Shambhala for the Hyper. But there's one model that's always been intriguing to me, one that breaks this rule because they have not one, but two master classes of coasters. This model is the Flying Coaster. You already know what the first one is, we can stop beating around the bush. Flying Dinosaur was a monumental coaster when it opened because it proved two things. First, that Universal wasn't afraid to build big, intense coasters. They were still willing to pour in the money into massive inverting B&M since the last time they did it was Hulk. Wow, that was a long time ago. But secondly, it showed that B&M was still willing to make wacky elements. Some of these elements are like weirder than RMC elements. Like there's a goddamn Raven turn on this. That's almost exclusively reserved for 40 coasters, but B&M said, fuck that. No, it's our turn. But there's one other flying coaster I want to bring your attention to. One that opened a few years earlier and utilizes a lot of the same insanity, but gets close to no recognition. I actually had no idea what this coaster was until a YouTube comment pointed it out. So thanks to the commenter for that, because this coaster honestly looks almost as good, if not better, than Flying Dinosaur. That ride is Starry Sky Ripper. Now you might be thinking, hey, I've heard of that, because yeah, I heard of it too. But I never actually took the time to look at the layout. This is one of those B&M new generation flyers. This and Flying Dinosaur, and while it is a little smaller, oh boy does it pack a punch. You thought that Fly to Lie was cool in Flying Dinosaur? That's just gravy here. You got the main course of a vertical loop with the side of a straight drop, and the dessert, you got double corkscrews into the brakes. This layout is truly insane. You might be saying, Coastoons, how have I not heard of this? It's definitely defunct or something. Well, my friend, this is simply one of the many Chinese coasters that completely fly under the radar. See what I did there? But seriously, there's a whole world of Chinese coasters that nobody talks about because no one has been there. China is literally like everyone's testing grounds besides RMC. You got the new generation Vekomas, the massive terrain GCIs, the Intamin shuttle coasters, friggin' Intamin dueling coasters, and of course there's this new generation flying coaster. This ride looks phenomenal, and today we're just gonna take a deep dive into the layout, element by element. Okay, yes, I know this is a pretty low effort video, but relax, okay? I've been doing a lot of video essays, just give me a break. I'll get back to the cool stuff next week. Right off the bat, you kick it off with a straight drop. That's pretty much unheard of with any flying coaster, not just B&Ms. I mean, that's pretty rare for any coaster with track above the rider, besides the couple of aero suspended coasters that are left, let alone the ones that even do that. I honestly think this drop would be really cool to experience. It's basically Falcon's Fury as your first drop. I mean, if that doesn't show you that this ride is going to be whack, then I don't know what would. Next, you go into this super sharp and high off the ground bank turn. This reminds me a lot of the first turn on Dragonflyer. I don't know if it'd be quite as intense because you're in the flying position, but it'll certainly be fun. At worst, it'll be a super high off the ground swooping turn, making you feel like you're flying, and at best, it'll be a positive G-packed element that could possibly make you gray out right after the first great drop. Then you come to possibly one of the most demonic sequences on any coaster. This fly to lie straight into the vertical loop looks like a car crash. You don't have a split second to breathe. You just power through that fly to lie and then go straight into this tight vertical loop. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this packed more G's than I-305's turn. It's certainly just as sustained. You pop into this weird turn. Honestly, just watching this POV, I'm disoriented coming out of the vertical loop. But this almost looks like an inversion. I don't know, maybe I'm just tripping, but it looks kind of crazy. You then go into this swooping turn over the lake. This section of the ride's actually just turns in straight track. You could call it a dead spot, but then you realize turns in straight track make up pretty much all of Superman Ultimate Flight, and those rides are still hella fun, so I'm sure this section will be great, especially over the water. Then you pull into the wonderful finale, 2 back-to-back corkscrews. I actually don't know if these are corkscrews. I mean, technically RCDB says they're corkscrews, but it also says this ride is an inline twist, and I'm not seeing no inline twist anywhere, so I don't know. Interpret this as you will. Actually, now that I look at this, I'm looking at the layout, I think I might have overhyped it a little. I don't think it's better than Flying Dinosaur, but it's pretty damn close. Come on, did you even know this thing existed before I told you today? I certainly didn't. So the fact that it's this good, it's crazy. I think I was a little justified in my hype. But China has a ton of these crazy looking coasters that I want to skim through real quick because not a lot of people know them. I'll make a comparison to a coaster that a lot of people know about just so you can get a better idea of what they're like. I'm not going to do the common ones because you already know about that and what they're similar to. Like, yeah, Dinoconda is similar to Edgenica. It's practically the same thing. Alright, okay, let's just go. First up, we have Coaster Through the Clouds. We'll start off simple with the one a bunch of people probably know. This is probably the most popular one. I'd say this looks most similar to Millennium Force with the big overbanks and staying super high off the ground. I gotta say though, I don't know what it is about it, but I genuinely think this looks like a 500-foot coaster. It might just be because of the turn off the lift, but it looks taller than these friggin' buildings. Like look, the thing is crazy tall. It's a lot of overbanks, but then there's this kind of outer bank thing at the end. I don't know if it was intentional. It kind of looks like a mistake, but it's an outer bank before outer banks were cool. This ride looks like a lot of fun. Not one of the best in China, and a lot of people already know about it, so I wouldn't necessarily call it underrated or forgotten about. Alright, next we got a massive B&M wing coaster called Falcon, and when I say massive, I mean it's bigger than some B&M Hypers. It's basically a hyper wing coaster. It's only 4 feet off. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't go for the 200-foot record so it could be marketable, but I guess Chinese people like it like that. This looks a lot like a combination of Gatekeeper and Phoenix. Gatekeeper for the scale and Phoenix for the type of elements. There's also a lot of rock work on it. We don't really see a lot of themed B&Ms. That's more Intamin's thing, so this is cool to see. It kind of looks like Terran's rock work, but since it's a wing coaster, the near misses are going to be probably nuts. Speaking of Intamin blitzes, there's also Steel Dolphin. Okay, this is another one that a lot of people know about, and honestly, I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. This thing looks like Cheetah Hunt if it wasn't made for families. Long, sprawling layout around the park, not super intense, but it has some pretty cool airtime hills. It's twisty. It was Intamin's first early RNC inspired layouts, so there's some good stuff. It's not full on RMC copy and paste, but it's still more creative than the usual Intamin elements. There's a lot of gravity groups in China, but one I think barely gets the love it deserves is Wooden Coaster Fireball. This looks like a GCI if Gravity Group built it. The only comparison I can think of, it's a larger scale boardwalk bullet. It's got some twists and turns like a GCI, but it also has a lot of airtime hills, like the Voyage. The compromise is Boardwalk Bullet, or this. Next we got Walrus Splash. Think Journey to Atlantis, but with walruses. Lastly, there's Stress Express. Yeah, this is just a boomerang. I just thought it was funny that there's actually a coaster called Stress Express. Anyways, that's just about it. Yes, yeah, I know, this wasn't a super crazy banger, but I just needed a chill week, alright? Chinese coasters are lit. Starry Sky Ripper is nuts. Thanks for watching. See you next time.